All right, you guys can get started now.
Perfect. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to join today. I'm just going to kick off with a bit of an introduction to the ThousandEyes team that's on the call. So I'm Zenia. I'm a channel manager for ThousandEyes. I've been part of the ThousandEyes team for coming up to almost 7 years now. I'm based out of Austin, Texas, and I support CDW and their customers. And I'm supported today by Scott Eddy. Scott, do you want to do a quick introduction as well?
Sure. I'm a ThousandEyes solution engineer. I've been with ThousandEyes for about 3 years and covering the Americas territory. And happy to meet y'all.
Thanks, Scott. Guys, feel free to pipe up throughout the presentation. Feel free to go off mute, ask questions. If you're not comfortable asking questions out loud, just feel free to type them into the chat. I'm gonna first of all just start us off with a little bit of an overview to ThousandEyes as a product, and then we're gonna go a little bit more into the cloud-based use cases. So Scott is going to show you some demonstrations of ThousandEyes supporting a cloud migration, and we're also going to have a look at our new product offering, Cloud Insights. So feel free to ask questions as we're going through. So just to kick off as to why ThousandEyes is necessary in the first place, I think something that has existed maybe 20, 30 years ago, where you used to own everything within your own internal infrastructure, you used to host everything in your data center, you used to have an MPLS with a stable SLA. We all know that that environment doesn't exist anymore today, right? We're all reliant every day on SaaS applications like Microsoft Teams or WebEx. We are all using Microsoft Office every day, potentially hosting applications in AWS. So that network has become a lot more distributed, a lot more complex, and a lot more difficult to monitor. So that increase of external dependencies and the decrease of control and ownership is really what ThousandEyes focuses on. And that's really the issue that we're looking to address. Because there's a ton of questions that come up as you're troubleshooting issues on the public internet, right? Once it goes outside of your own network, could be your DNS, could be the public internet, could be your cloud provider. There's so many questions you have to answer to get down to the challenge that's actually going on that you can spend a lot of time just running around circles and putting together big war rooms, wasting loads of people's time. And that's really the challenge that we're looking to help alleviate. I kind of talked to this already. This is kind of the new environment that we're all operating in today, right? Data center has become the new cloud. SaaS has become the new application stack. Since COVID, I think we all know home is kind of the new office, and the internet has been the backbone of the network for quite some time now. So you might be thinking, okay, but why should I care, right? Why do I need this level of visibility? How's it going to impact me if I don't have it? So this is an example that I personally really love. And these are two large global banks. Both of these banks were reliant on the same DDoS provider. And I would say that's quite common, right? That customers use the same DDoS provider like Akamai, sorry, for example. And in this case, this DDoS provider had an outage. One of the banks had ThousandEyes in place and the other one did not. The one that had ThousandEyes running was able to see the disruption to their network within the first 4 minutes and redirect traffic and get their customers back online. Whereas the other bank that did not have ThousandEyes did not realize that their DDoS provider was having a service outage. It took them 2 hours to identify that there was a service disruption at all, and another additional 5 hours before they could get back online. And that obviously had a very significant impact on their customers, on their brand identity. And that's really what we focus on, is identifying issues very fast and mitigating the time that it takes to resolve them by pinpointing exactly who's responsible and which network is responsible. So the ThousandEyes product is made up of three key areas of visibility. I'm going to talk through these briefly, but Scott will show you them more in depth in the demo. So our visibility goes sort of from macro to micro level. So at a macro level, we have internet insights. So all the network tests that are running through our platform from our customers, we take all of that data, we anonymize it, and we feed it back into our AI. And this allows us to generate a global view of overall internet health. So you can look at specific ISP providers, you can look at different SaaS providers across the globe, and get an understanding of the general health of the internet. The next level down from that is our enterprise and our cloud agents. From a compute perspective, they are technically exactly the same. The only difference between the two is one is managed by yourself and one is managed by us as ThousandEyes. So the cloud agents are hosted by ThousandEyes. They are placed in key ISP locations all around the globe. They also sit within all the key cloud providers, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and even in Alibaba Cloud. These are there to give you visibility from outside of your network coming in. So if you had a customer-facing portal, like a retail website, mobile banking portal, maybe a supply management portal where people log in and check the status of their order, and you wanted to understand how customers from all over Canada or maybe even in North America are connecting to that application, you would utilize the cloud agent. And what it would essentially do is it would simulate a single end user accessing that service or application. So you would understand how they're traversing the public internet, how they're passing through things like your DDoS security, your CDN providers, etc., before they hit the application. The enterprise agent, from a compute perspective, as I mentioned, is exactly the same, but it's just hosted within your own environment. So you would place these within a data center or a branch office, for example, and they're utilized more for your core IT visibility. So if you wanted to understand your employees' experience out to critical SaaS applications like Office 365, Microsoft Teams, Salesforce, that's a good use case for the enterprise agent. Another way it could be utilized is to give visibility into SD-WAN networks, data center to data center connectivity, your more traditional network monitoring type use cases. And then if we go down to the micro level, we've got the endpoint agent, and that would sit on a user's device, like a Mac or a PC, and is really utilized for the remote worker use case, right? So with the enterprise agent, we're looking at the office, but what happens when I'm not in the office? I go to a coffee shop, or I work from home, or maybe I'm on the go somewhere and I'm having issues with Microsoft Teams and I go complain to my IT team. They can very quickly see that it's actually because I'm sat at Starbucks and have very bad connectivity to the Wi-Fi router because I'm sat far away from it, or the Wi-Fi signal is very weak, and it's got actually nothing to do with the application itself or the overall network. So with that, I'm going to take a quick pause and hand it over to Scott Eddy to actually show you guys some of the platform.
Awesome. Thanks, Xenia. Great overview. So what I'm going to show you here is less slides, right? More, let's look at the product. And while our product does a lot of things, right? We're very good at understanding what's happening in any portion of the network, whether it's the domain that you own, whether it's the internet, or whether it's the cloud. We're not a network monitoring solution. We are an experience solution. So it's all about user experience and understanding how the users connect to the applications wherever they happen to be, whether they're in your own data center or whether they're in the cloud. Excuse me. In this particular example, we're looking at an application that is being served out to customers in these locations, right? So Germany, Scotland, England, and they're all going into a single data center. So this data center is owned by the customer, and they're serving the application out of their data center. But what they were trying to do now, because of the size and being able to scale appropriately, is they wanted to do a migration to AWS. During that migration, right, we were able to baseline what the application performance looked like prior to that. And that's what you see down here. So all of the customers in these locations coming into a single data center and what the performance looks like here. When we did the cut over into AWS, you can see things started to go a little wonky and performance was really bad. So the problem that the customer had is they had no idea why the performance started taking errors and higher latency. What we did was we gave them that visibility, right? So they didn't know, was it the network? Was it the internet? Was it AWS? Was it the application itself? They didn't know any of that. And they were starting to get a little bit worried, because they couldn't figure out what the problem was. But with ThousandEyes, we can go into the migration, and we'll just choose this time on the timeline here. And we can take a look and see, okay, well, now we've got all these different locations, same locations that we're monitoring before on the left, going to a bunch of different data centers. And these are all AWS locations, right? So you can see here, Scotland was going to the data center in the UK. And they were also going to another one in London. We could take a look at this one here. Why was customers in Coventry, England, going to Amsterdam? We don't understand why Netherlands were going to Sweden, why they were having problems. And you can see this one here. Some customers in England were going to Seattle, Washington, which is halfway around the planet, right? So this is what was the cause of the performance issues, is that we figured out that it wasn't the application, it wasn't the internet, it wasn't AWS, it was actually the CDN provider that they used to distribute the applications among the data centers. It was a misconfiguration of the CDN. So we were able to quickly identify that for them. They could have a conversation with their CDN provider, and then further on down the road, when it's stabilized, right, you can see here that the performance is stabilized. Now we have these folks that are going to the correct data centers in London, and there's more London. They're not going halfway around the world to get to the place where they're supposed to be. The CDN is routing them properly, right? So this is what we've done in cloud migrations. We give you the before, during, and after picture of how your cloud migration went. And this is really, really great. And one of the new excuse me, one of the new innovations that we have. So we're really good at seeing from the customer perspective or from the user perspective into the target application, right? But what's happening on the back end is always a question. In in the past, you always had to have an application performance monitoring, some sort of APM monitoring the application, because we just look from the user to the front door of the application. What we've done is we've actually created a new product called Cloud Insights. And Cloud Insights gives us a little deeper visibility into the application environment itself, especially when it's in the cloud. So we can take a look at any one of these tests, but I'm gonna look at one here that has an application hosted in AWS, and we can see here that we get some performance issues, loss and latency and things like that around these times. You can see certain times there's spikes and other things like that. But what we really want to do is we want to tie together the page response times. We want to tie together HTTP server response times and availability. So you can see those spikes were due to HTTP server availability. We can tie in the network piece of it, where we can actually see what's going on with the network. We see that we're actually going into AWS at the global accelerator level. But we also now can see a little further into the topology of AWS, right? So we can click on this cloud, and we can see things like the infrastructure inside the AWS cloud. So here's the global accelerator that was on the last page. And now we can see all the backend applications and servers and resources that are serving that application, from load balancers all the way down to individual specific servers within a target group. The great thing is we have the ability to look at the configuration of these, right? So we can actually click on these nodes and get the configuration that's already in AWS. So we can see what's going on there. And what that gives us the ability to do is it allows us to alert whenever there's a configuration change. So you can see here that I actually had a configuration change on one of my nodes. And I can click into that time slice, and I can see that this is the node that had the configuration change. And now we're going to tell you exactly what was changed inside the application that could have affected that service or that caused an issue with the throughput, right? So we can see like right here, another change. This one here was actually on the same server. We can see another change here. This one was actually a change that was made to a load balancer. So in this particular case, we can scroll down here and somebody removed a security group from the load balancer, causing an application performance issue. As you can see, the throughput on that application went down significantly from here to here. And then we can see on the other end of it, right? This is just a recurring issue that we created. You can see on the other end of it that that problem was restored here, and the application started performing again on that end. So deeper visibility across all the stack, including what's happening inside the cloud. We can even look at traffic inside the cloud and see what's going on, where traffic is going, right? So this one's going from AWS Amsterdam to Azure and vice versa. So we can look at events, any kind of configuration changes, and traffic inside the cloud. If you want performance of your nodes and things like that inside the cloud, you'll still need an APM, but we're giving you much more information on how your application is functioning. Yeah, so this Cloud Insights is a new feature as well. It just went GA yesterday, day before yesterday. And Traffic Insights is the next version of Cloud Insights. And what this is us trying to give you more information about the networks that you have visibility into, like Cloud Insights. Traffic Insights is the NetFlow version of this. So we're going to be able to collect NetFlow on your owned network and be able to understand the traffic flows within your network, right? So you can see here with Traffic Insights, and you can see that we're doing pretty good. We're getting all of our flows. We're seeing the conversations. We can switch this to applications, so it'll tell us what applications. So here's our corporate data center app. But you can see here we have some spikes in traffic that could be causing issues. And it seems to be happening about every 6 hours, 1830, 0030. So you can see it's happening about every 6 hours. So we could just click on that and I'll immediately tell you what it is. We have Microsoft Windows Update Service every 6 hours that's hitting our network with, 538 megabits per second worth of traffic, right? Across 32 clients. We can even, and 5 locations. We can even drill down into specific locations using the filters up here. So if I wanted to drill down into, say, Texas, I can actually see what's going on in Texas. And we can take a look at that from an application perspective, that we've got almost 500 megabits per second of traffic in Texas, 200 megabits per second of traffic in Texas. So you can slice and dice this however you want to do it. It just gives us more visibility into the actual traffic that's on our network within that, right? All right. So one thing, we do a lot of things, right? We have integrations with almost every Cisco architecture, cloud, network, security, collaboration, you name it, right? We have it. So we can even give you visibility into like WebEx Health. So here's a dashboard that's showing WebEx Health that we have testing from my house. We can create tests to and from devices on your network, on-prem network. We can see status of things like WebEx, right? So we can see this is WebEx. This is the WebEx application, cisco.webex.com. We can look at the network piece of that and see if there's any packet loss or latency. We can look at all the hops from my Meraki MX going out to Cisco WebEx, so I can understand what's happening across the internet. There's a lot of really, really great things that we can do. We can do things like SD-WAN. We can, let me see. So this shows us SD-WAN. So SD-WAN is really kind of an interesting one, because with SD-WAN we have the overlay, which is the encrypted tunnels that are multi-connect to every location. But we also have the underlay, which are the ISP circuits that those tunnels run over, right? So in this, we can actually see not only the overlay, uh, we have 3 tests. We have 2 underlay tests and an overlay test. So we can see the overlay. This is from Dallas, the Dallas data center into a branch, right? And we can see that it goes to the SD-WAN router across the overlay to the far end SD-WAN router in there. But if we wanted to see what the traffic underlay looks like, because we may be having issues with a provider such as AT&T or Quest Communications, we can see that as well. So we can actually drill into where the problem is and start to have conversations, because we may think it's down here with Comcast, but it's actually up here with Quest Communications. And so now we can open a single ticket with the provider to get that resolved, because it's one hop outside of our SD-WAN router. And instead of opening a bunch of tickets or doing a bunch of troubleshooting, we get you to this within 30 seconds. We could tell you this is where the problem is, right? And we're also having a problem on our other underlay as well, right? So now we need to open a ticket with AT&T and figure out why it's dropping packets at this. And you can really take this and share this. So this is actually a share link, and I'll share this with you guys. This is what we call a share link. Inside the platform, when you're looking here, if this was a problem that you wanted to share with a third party, you could just take a snapshot and it creates a read-only view. I put it in the chat if you're interested. That looks like this. You don't have any of the navigation, but you can still interact with it, right? You can move up and down the timeline or whatever you want to do. And you can have a real conversation with your service provider saying, this is where we're seeing the problem on your network, right? So, hey, Quest, this device with the IP address 63.149.2.14, that's where the problem is. So they don't even have to guess where the problem is. A lot of times when you open tickets with carriers or things like that, they just want to run a loop back to your local circuit, and that's about all the testing they can do. I've had many conversations with service providers that say, how do you have this visibility of the networks and our networks? And this is amazing. Let me go check that out for you immediately. Lots of really great conversations when you can show them the data and have a real conversation. All right. So we also have the endpoint agents. So the endpoint agents are very cool. This is what Xenia referred to as the micro view, or whatever word she used. But this is really cool because so many people now are working from remote locations. We found out during the pandemic that it was actually pretty easy for people to work from home, and a lot of companies now have hybrid policies where some days during the week, I work from home 100% of the time, but some days during the week, they may work from home. Some days they may come in the office. Well, if you're at home, how do you have visibility into what's happening with your home network, right? So the IT can't really do much unless they have information. Well, with ThousandEyes, we can give them the information, right? So here's my workstation at my house. I can actually see information about my computer. So all I have to do is really just give them my name, and they can look this up. They don't have to have me go into CLI and type IP config and get my IP and all the information, right? It's all right here at their fingertips. I can see, is my CPU spiking? Is my memory a problem, right? I can actually look and see what all my IP addresses are. I can look into my wireless info, right? I got 100% signal quality, right? And no noise or anything like that. And that's because my access point's about 3 feet above my head. But if I was on the other end of the house, that may be like 40% and causing me all kinds of problems. And then I can actually see my gateway, right? And my performance all the way out to the application, right? Here's the application, no loss, 91 milliseconds of latency. And I can even look into the application and see, oh, is something taking a long time to load? These are all the components of the application. Is something taking a long time to load? This one looks like it actually has an error. We can really look into that and get visibility into what's happening from the user's perspective. We can even see things like WebEx, right? WebEx and Microsoft Teams. So if they're on WebEx, which we're on WebEx right now, This is the actual WebEx call that I'm on, that I'm looking at, right? Here's my machine. I'm connected to the New York data center for WebEx, and I can see everything in between. So this is what we call a dynamic test that gets, sorry, I'm having bandwidth issues right now. My Starlink is not doing very well. But whenever you launch a WebEx or a Microsoft Teams, we set these tests up automatically. You don't even have to do anything. You have to make some settings at the very beginning, but then you can completely forget about it. And all of this data can be integrated into WebEx Control Hub. And we can push this up to WebEx Control Hub. So when WebEx Control Hub says, hey, you're having poor audio or video minutes, you can actually see where in the conversation or where on the network we're losing packets or having really high latency or jitter. So this is all tied together, right? And we can even do scheduled tests here as well, where we're targeting, here's OneDrive. So we can actually see what our performance is to OneDrive. Again, I'm having some bandwidth issues. So it looks like I'm a little bit slow today. Let's see if I can fix that. Yeah, that one's not working. Sorry guys, the demo's going crazy. So right here, it actually is showing that I'm having forwarding loss, and this is actually on my home gateway. So it may be that my my Meraki MX needs to be rebooted or something to that effect. But I can see here that if I was having issues with WebEx or with Starlink, right? So this is my home gateway, these two hops. This is actually the satellite in Starlink's network. This is a private node on Starlink's network. And then right here, you can see that I'm on SpaceX. So in this particular instance, I'm actually having a problem with my gateway where I'm losing 50% of my packets during that time frame. So that may be what the problem is right there. So I could take a look at that and see if it went away. That's a good question, Rich. But yeah, we can get into all of that, and with Cloud Insights and Traffic Insights, we even have more visibility. And now we also have Meraki cross domain context, where if your customer has Meraki install, that we can actually identify the device within that, right? So right here, I don't have it set up on mine. Right here, this is actually a Meraki device. With the Meraki domain context integration, it will tell you this is a MX75, and this is the name of the MX, and this is the performance, and how many people are behind that, how many users are on that MX, all that kind of stuff, and it's going to bring that right into visibility here. Not only that, our visibility of this path trace will also be available on the Meraki dashboard as well. So you'll be able to see, regardless of which tool you go into, and you can cross launch into each one of them, what's happening on that device, right? It'll tell me what the health of that device is in the Meraki dashboard in a big list here. I wish I had a demo of that, but I don't have it yet. Awesome. Well, I wanted to leave a little bit of time for people to ask questions. So feel free, if you want, come off mute. We can have conversations. If you guys want to talk more about a specific, use case, or if you have a customer in mind that might be interested in this, please let us know. So Xenia, I'm going to kind of hand it back to you to see if we can start to wrap this up and maybe answer any questions that are outstanding.
Yeah, guys, feel free to jump in with any questions. I just had one final slide from my end to kind of summarize some of the. Oh, did you want to show the Internet Insights, Scott?
Yeah, I guess I can do that. That's a great idea. This is the macro view. I guess I showed the other two. I might as well show this one, right? This is the macro view that Xenia talked about, where we're actually giving you real insight into what's happening across the internet over the last 24 hours. And you can see here outage events. Like here was actually an outage in Amazon on the East Coast. You can see that here. Anything in red is network based. Anything in purple will be application based. So Office 365, any of those type of applications, you can drill into those. Like if you wanted to know more about this Amazon outage, we can actually click into it and drill into that even deeper. And you can actually see it's from Germany, US, and Brazil, Mexico, and the outage is in Ashburn, Virginia. So it's an East Coast outage. It's a known outage, and it's affected by these ISPs. And there are some applications. We can actually look at domain. So these are the applications that are affected on the Amazon side: freewill.tv, dynatrace.com, and Netflix. So this is a pretty good size outage because nobody can watch their Netflix shows. but yeah, this is definitely a way to drill into that and understand the internet as a whole. So think of Down Detector, but with real data, right? Down Detector is more social data, people reporting outages. We're bringing in the visibility at the top level so that you can really understand. These are known outages that we used real data to collect. So we can really understand what's going on at a global level or even just a regional level, right? So you can just look at the US and zoom into that. And we can say, oh, look, Spotify's down. We need to drill into that so that I can see why I can't listen to my favorite music, right? So lots of really, really cool stuff that you can take a look at. And you can tie this together with other information from cloud and enterprise agents or endpoint agents so that you can really make better decisions on how to maintain your network and build it out in the first place. Awesome. Back to you, Zenny.
Scott, there's a question that's just come in from Andrew. He was asking, how many applications can ThousandEyes monitor?
We can monitor any application, right? So all we need is is a URL or a target IP address, and we can monitor it, right? So it doesn't really matter where it's at, as long as it's an application that your users are using, we can monitor it. From the Cloud Insights perspective, or from the Internet Insights perspective, I think we have about 200 applications and networks that we monitor, which are all the major ones across the world. So that's a great question. You can monitor as many applications as you want. Great question.
Just to wrap it up a little bit, and please feel free to go off mute, guys, and ask any questions that you might have left. I know we talked a lot about the Cisco integrations today, how we fit into WebEx, how we fit into Meraki, but ThousandEyes is fully vendor agnostic, right? So if you have Juniper in your environment, you've got Riverbed, you've got competitive technologies like Microsoft Teams, it really doesn't matter. For ThousandEyes, we will give you the same level of visibility regardless of what type of technology you've got within your infrastructure. It doesn't need to be all Cisco. Even your internal infrastructure, like your routers and switches, although we've got native deployments on some of the Cisco Cat9Ks, if your environment looks different, that doesn't limit your ability to utilize ThousandEyes and get value from the platform. One thing we didn't really talk about yet is that the platform is fully synthetic in nature. So traditional network monitoring would obviously rely heavily on packet capture, taking real user traffic from the network, analyzing that, and then giving you some sort of conclusion. So ThousandEyes doesn't do that. All of the data is synthetic. All of the agents generate their own data set. So for a lot of our customers, especially financial services and insurance, this is really valuable because we're not taking any personal identifiable information off the network. And the other reason why this is incredibly valuable is a lot of customers use us for a pre-deployment or an assessment type exercise. So for example, maybe you're thinking about a new cloud provider, right? Maybe you're evaluating between AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure, and you're unsure which one is the right one for you. You can actually utilize ThousandEyes to understand what would your network connectivity look like with these cloud providers before you go live. Because we're not relying on live user traffic being on the network, we can give you insights on what that would look like before your go live date. We actually had a customer in Europe a few years ago that did a really big cloud migration. Obviously, this doesn't apply as much in Canada or the United States, but in Europe, GDPR compliancy is a really big thing, right? And companies can get fined a ton of money if data isn't kept in the right countries. So as this customer was migrating to Google Cloud, they were certain that, you know, their data was going to be staying inside Europe. They'd signed all the agreements, everything looked like it was fine. But just 24 hours before the launch, they decided to do some testing with ThousandEyes to be extra sure. And what they saw is that Google Cloud was actually routing that data through the US data centers and then back again to Europe, which would made them non-GDPR compliant and landed a ton of fines for the customer if they would have gone live that way. And that's something that they were able to see and address before they move forward with Google Cloud. And the same can be applied to an SD-WAN network, or maybe you're thinking about paying for Express Connect, but you're not sure whether it's worth the extra money. ThousandEyes is a really good way to prove that value and see if you're actually getting benefits from some of these solutions. Another thing is that all the agents are virtual. So we talked about cloud, enterprise, endpoint agents. They're all virtual. They don't require any physical hardware. So it's very quick and easy to get them up and running. We can get our tests going within 5 to 10 minutes. So you can get valuable data within under 24 hours. We've got free in-platform support. So you've got a chat support system within the platform, and you get straight through to a fully stacked Cisco engineer who's able to help answer questions, support you with any alerts that you might be a little bit unsure of. And we also run free proof of concept. So if you have an interest area, or after this presentation, you've got some thoughts where you feel like ThousandEyes might be able to help or shine some extra light on difficult situations, we can definitely put ThousandEyes in and just let you see the platform, let you see the power of the data that we deliver, and we can keep that up and running for up to a month for you to really get your hands on ThousandEyes and understand the benefits. And that's pretty much it from us on slides and demonstrations, but please feel free, guys, to go off mute, ask any additional questions. If there's any extra use cases you'd like to see, I know we focus heavily on cloud with this one, but if you're interested to see a collaboration-based use case or anything like that, feel free to speak up.
Thank you, everyone.